You roll out your mat, turn off your devices, set your intention to enjoy a practice with no distractions, and then they appear. Your furry friends. Scientific studies have confirmed that spending time with animals can reduce cortisol levels and increase oxytocin levels. So grab your fur baby and let's get started. Welcome to the Youthful Older Yogi podcast. I'm MJ Waddell, your yogi host and founder of FURRY Yoga. I've been practicing, teaching, and loving yoga for over 25 years. I'm an advocate of movement, creativity, and staying healthy in mind and body after 50. And so are my guests. It's never too late to start, and there's a lot of healthy years ahead. So let's start now. Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Youthful Older Yogi. I'm MJ Waddell, the creator and founder of FURRY Yoga, and I'm so happy you're either watching or listening this episode. This is the final episode of season 2 and of 2024. And I just want to thank you so much if you've listened or watched. I love putting together these episodes, interviewing guests, and hopefully bringing you some inspirational and educational content. So I'm looking very forward to season 3 and sharing more yoga and movement and creativity. I appreciate all the subscribers, the likes, the shares. Please continue to share this with other yogis or anyone that you feel might be interested in listening. And please visit my website, shareyogawithmj.com, shareyogawithmj.com, to subscribe to my newsletter. It's free. I maybe do 1 or 2 a month because I've got a lot going on. And you might get a few more when I'm promoting a workshop or some freebies. And you'll be the first to know. And also, here's a little teaser. I am putting together a yoga retreat in 2025. So that's the tease. And you might want to be in the know. All right. So thank you again. And I will be looking at my notes. So this episode is called Yoga and Your Pets. And this is really a tribute to my 2 pets. They've passed a while ago. My beautiful, handsome tuxedo cat, Sir Benson, who lived to be 22 years old. And my ever so adorable, cute little Shih Tzu, Caler. And they were just amazing yoga buddies. I just really, really loved every time I rolled out my mat, they'd come running. I had a special mat for each of them, but they usually tried to just get onto my own mat. So if you do have a family friend or fur friend and you practice yoga, that's really, really cute. So again, I don't have any fur babies at the present, but I really, really miss my yoga buddies. And I just remember how having them present while I was practicing it just brought me so much joy. They made me feel like I had 2 of the most engaged students. I loved their curiosity and their dedication to being on the mat. Usually it was the center of my mat. And I would yoga around them and find new ways to move in and out of poses as to not disturb them. And I tend to be a very serious yogi. But when you have a fur baby walk underneath you, when you're in plank pose and you're getting ready to lower down into Chaturanga Dandasana, it becomes a fun challenge to find your way down without crushing them. They help me really experience the present moment, and they help me go with the flow and feel a sense of community. And I never had to convince them that yoga was beneficial for their mind, body, or spirit. They came running as soon as I rolled out my mat. And they both would just stretch out and yawn or meow, signaling their trust and readiness for play and or affection. I just loved it. They reminded me not to be too serious, and I'm pretty sure they knew I would never reprimand them or try to push them off my mat. So I wanted to talk about the two particular poses that are named after them. Marjariasana, which is the cat pose, and Adho Mukha Svanasana, which is downward facing dog pose. And these two postures are in most every yoga practice. I don't think I've ever been to a yoga practice without some form of cat pose or some form or variation of downward facing dog. I wanted to pop in to thank you for listening to the Youthful Older Yogi. It's season 2, and I'm so excited to bring you more great guests, education, and ways for you to stay youthful in mind and body after 50. If you love the show and want to help me make it even better, please consider becoming a supporter. You get to choose how much and how often you give, and there's no commitment. And remember, I donate a portion of every dollar I receive to charity. For 2024, I've chosen UNICEF. Just click the support button in the show notes. And just as helpful is sharing the show with other youthful older yogis. Thank you again so much for listening. And now let's get back to the podcast. So I want to talk about cat pose first. Marjariasana. So Marjari is cat in Sanskrit. It's not important that you know that. But this pose is inspired by that cat stretch. When you see the cats, sometimes they call it angry cat, and they're arching their back. And this pose has so many benefits. Just to name a few, it stretches and strengthens the back body. It strengthens your wrists, your arms, and your shoulders. It massages your digestive organs. It improves the flexibility and mobility of your spine, of your whole body, actually. And that's just to name a few. And it pretty much feels really good for most of us. And you can practice it standing or kneeling or seated or on all fours. And when you practice with a cat or a kitty, as was the case with me with Sir Benson, he liked to roam around and rub up against. So I would always leave my mat with kitty hair and puppy hair on my yoga pants and yoga mat. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So Svana is dog, Adho is down, Mukha is face. Again, not important that you know the Sanskrit, but it's fun to learn the Sanskrit for me anyway. And this pose is inspired by your pooch. When they come to greet you or when they're just waking up from their nap, they stretch their paws out in front of them, and then they lift their little tail up, and they've got this beautiful stretch. And so, you know, some people really love this pose, and other people, they just don't find it so wonderful. And some of the many benefits, it stretches your entire body. It releases tension from your entire back and encourages the spine to lengthen. It strengthens and builds your upper body, encourages your core muscles to support the pose. That's just to name a few. And I also wanted to say that downward facing dog, it's not an accessible pose for everyone. So you can adapt the pose by bringing your knees down to the mat, and it's called puppy dog pose. You outstretch your arms, or you can do it facing a wall with your hands against the wall. And there's many, many variations using your props. And keep in mind getting on the floor. When you get on the floor with your cat or dog, that might signal playtime. So you might want to have some toys nearby. And there's no guarantee they'll be quiet or considerate. They just might want to have some fun. So be prepared for potential interruptions. And this is where you can really practice patience. So in the past decade or so, there's been a lot of yoga classes with animals. Of course, cats, dogs, but I'm sure you've heard of goat yoga. There's even llamas, mini pigs, bunnies, and butterflies. Now, I haven't tried any of the barnyard yoga yet, but I can attest to practicing with a canine or a feline. And there's just so many benefits of practicing or having them around you. It really can calm your nervous system. It, of course, encourages exercise for you and your fur babies. And it can help with depression and just help have a positive effect on your brain health. Even watching animals on social media can bring your stress down a notch or two. So I have a few online students, and they all seem to have cats. And the cats are always roaming around on the mat or roaming around on their humans. And it's just kind of like their assistants. I love when they come into the practice. It's really fun. And I'm so fortunate to have a lot of friends with pets, and I get to do some pet sitting. And I just have to hold myself back because I love to maul them with affection, of course. And I love practicing with them, but I will warn you that sometimes Shavasana, that's the final corpse pose when you're soaking in the energy of your practice, it isn't always peaceful, but it can be lovely to hear a purring cat or feel some wet kisses on your hands or your face, or maybe even sometimes a snoring cat or dog, mostly the dog. Your pets are family, and including them in your yoga practice or any type of exercise routine, it can make it just a very joyful and playful activity. And sharing your practice, it nurtures well-being for both you and your four-legged friends. So in closing, I just want to say thank you so much for listening to the Youthful Older Yogi. I wish you and yours and pets, because they're family, holiday season full of contentment. And I hope you're surrounded with all the people, places, and traditions that bring your heart joy. And I wish for you a very happy, healthy, and peaceful 2025. And until next year and next season, keep sharing yoga. Namaste. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your comments, all likes, and all shares. Please subscribe to my website, shareyogawithmj.com, so you can receive my newsletter and be first to take advantage of my courses and freebies. If you navigate on social media, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Mary Jane Waddell. That's Jane with a Y, Jayne. This podcast would not be possible without the help of my editor, Dan Jones, from Cocoa Beach Productions. You can find Dan at cocobeachweb.com. And of course, thanks to my generous guests who share their time, insights, and youthful wisdom. Remember, the Youthful Older Yogi podcast is presented solely for educational, inspirational, and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician or other qualified professionals. Okay, yogis, stay well, stay youthful, and keep sharing yoga.